Hi, so you want to remaster the Banshee for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Well, this is a bit of a mess, this monster, because it's either hit and miss. It either does nothing, or you wind up with your party all facing down and with 0 hit points. So there's a couple of things I think we can do to fix some of the problems, but you should not really be putting level 1, level 2 or even level 3 characters up against a Banshee. It should be at least level 4 because it's challenge rating level 4. Now if you look at the guidelines around what their armor class should be, I've changed the armor class from a 12 to 14. That's much more in line with what we needed. The hit points were way too low, so I've gone from the number that we had. I think now it's 15d8, so the average is 67 and the top end will be 120, which is much more in line with what we need. I've changed the dexterity score and modifier. It was low, it's like a 14, now it's an 18, so that's a +4 modifier. And charisma was a 17, it's now an 18, that's a +4 modifier as well. And this is to affect the attack rolls, a little bit of damage, but also the DCs or difficulty class for anything that it's doing. I've added in a saving throw for this monster, dexterity +6, and a con of +2 for its saving throw. Wisdom and charisma was already there, but charisma's popped up from a +5 to a +6. It didn't have any skills. I've given it perception and stealth, so perception is +2, stealth is going to be +6. This is all in line with what you would expect from a ghost, if you ask me, and a banshee is kind of like a ghost or a spirit. The damage resistances are still acid, bludgeoning, fire, lightning, piercing, slashing, and thunder, but instead of there being that requirement for the bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage to be a magical weapon to get past damage resistance, which is too strong, I've removed that. So it's just forget about that. Your benefit from a magic weapon is going to be either a +1, +2, +3 to damage and hit, and that's it. Damage immunities are the same. So condition immunities though is a little bit different. It had a lot of condition immunities, but it doesn't have any biology. So it makes no sense that it can be blinded, it makes no sense that it can be deafened, and frankly I do not want a monk to be able to stun this creature because I think a banshee is a solo monster. I think it fights alone, it doesn't fight with others. Instead of dark vision, doesn't make sense, no biology, so we're going with blind sight and let's push it out to 120 feet, and the passive perception is now a 12 because of our adjustments to the skill. Everything else there is the same. I've added in a legendary resistance once per round on your saving throws. Detect life is perfectly fine the way it is, so is incorporeal movement. It doesn't do enough damage with the corrupting touch, so I've given it multi-attack, so it gets to do 2 attacks with corrupting touch if it uses its action, and the corrupting touch, instead of being a +4 to hit, it's now a +6. That's much more in line with characters of level 4, and the damage is now 14 on average when you do it, so that's 3d6 +4, not 2, and then the horrifying visage is fine except for the DC. Being a 13, it should be more in line with a 14 for a challenge rating 4 monster and player characters at level 4. Then we have the whale once per day. That's good. DC is still a bit too low, so I've made that a 14. Okay, that's much more in line, as I said, with level 4 characters. The damage is fine. I don't have to change the damage because it's going to affect about 3 characters, and it should be doing roughly about 30 points of damage in that ballpark. And with corrupting touch, if it hits twice, then it's going to do about 28 points of damage, which is much more in line. It's way too low at 12. Then you look at the legendary actions. You get to do a legendary action at the end of every player's turn. This is how you adjust it for the size of your group. You get fewer if you have a small group, you get more if you have a bigger group. Otherwise, the monster just can't keep up with everybody. Standard actions that it can use the dash, dodge, and search. Search is a waste of your time. Dash and dodge are your key ones. The basic attack would be the corrupting touch. And I haven't included anything else. This is a very basic legendary solo monster. It should still work pretty well and do what it needs to do for such a low level. Okay? And I will put this up onto Patreon if you are interested.